I love the stories in your book when you talk about meeting Ozzy and Sharon and going to their house for the first time and
Yeah.
the communal breakfasts and all that stuff. The stories are absolutely wonderful. I really think people should pick up the book. That whole section I found really, because I mean, literally, you sort of came from sleeping on. Was it Kevin's floor you were sleeping on
Yeah,
when you
Kevin's
went?
apartment. Yeah, he had a guest room, and I slept on a sheet,
Wow.
on a sheet. On It had quite shag carpeting. Thank God for the '70s. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then from there, you end up in this palatial place with guest houses and stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
like overnight.
Overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, I wound up there because I couldn't get a ride back to to Kevin's place. So they say pick pick a bungalow. Basically, they were just like a row of bungalows, and I just picked one, and that was it. And I stayed there.
Wow.
I
Now,
stayed
did you
there
end up?
for the duration. Yeah,
Yeah. So that became your home, basically.
yeah, it did. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I was on the road with Ozzy and everybody, including Sharon, the band, in the same bus, and then we would get off the bus and I would go and stay with them.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
so you were treated really well.
Oh my God, yes, fantastic.
And
Yeah,
and so Ozzy, good guy, Sharon, good person. Sharon's
excellent people.
Sharon's dad comes off as a bit of a badass.
Well, they all were in that scene. I mean, we're talking about the music, the music scene in the 50s and 60s. I mean, here's a man who was promoting. Later on, he promoted the 60s rock bands, but before that, he was Gene Vincent's manager in
Right.
England and
That's right.
promoter, and that circuit, and it was pretty tough. I mean, it's common knowledge that early rock and roll was transitional to that the people that ran the business were actually mafia
Yeah, mobsters.
mobsters. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the whole jukeboxes and record companies and publishing deals and all that. So it had its birth there.
Now, I don't know how prevalent it is now, but a friend of mine back in the late 80s, early 90s, he was road managing. He doesn't do that anymore. He basically runs his own touring company, but he was road managing and doing some shows in New York. And he's like a mind, like a computer. He can balance books to a nickel, just to always, no matter how big the tour. And so he said it was the first time working in New York. And he sat down and they're doing it's post show and they're doing the final tally and stuff. And he's going, okay, this yours, it's yours, okay, everything's good. And there's a guy standing behind him. He goes, I think you might have forgotten something here. He says, pardon me, and he's also very proud. He knows his numbers are on. So he became quite indignant, saying, I don't want to mention his name because I don't want to get him in trouble. But anyway, so he says, I don't. What are you talking about? My numbers are these numbers are perfect. He says, no, I think you may have missed something here. And the guy pulls back his shirt and he's wearing a piece. He's got a gun. And all of a sudden he went, oh. So in New York, up until that point, there was still mafia involvement on shows where you had to, part of your tour was you had to pay these guys off and write it off so that the government wouldn't know about it and write it off into some sort of weird extraneous expenses. Yeah. And I remember I found it really ironic that he was saying, he says, oh yeah, he says, if McCartney plays New York, that has to happen. He says, that's all the way up the board,
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I've never experienced that personally, but I play the Garden enough times, Madison Square Garden, to know that when you play there, you just do it as a status type of show, right? Because you can say, hey, we sold out the Garden, but you're not going to make any money because of it's a very tough venue to get in and out. So you're going to go into extra time with the union, and it's a union building. You cannot touch anything unless a union representative either is there with you or is actually handling it. So It's a very slow in and it's very slow out.
Well, so what's your take on Billy Joel? I mean, he sells out Madison Square Gardens once a month now. That's his house gig. So
Yeah, which makes sense because I'm talking about if you're doing one show,
yeah,
the in and the out is going to cost you what you're going to make playing there. But if you do multiple shows, you amortize that.
Yeah.
And you actually do make a lot of money.
Right. Wow. So it's like if you're like Elton John and selling out 5 or 7 nights, he's made a ton of dough. But yeah, those in and out costs, I see what you mean. It's sort of like the upfront stuff sort of negates all the money that you would have made on a one-nighter.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Check out our other vignettes and full episodes from a wide variety of guests for more great content. Please like, share, and subscribe, and become a member at SocialNRGPresents.com to access premium content and earn valuable energy points just for watching.